$10,000. Let that sink in for a second. That's the chunk of change you're probably losing every single year to daily coffees, overpriced lunches, and those random subscriptions you totally forgot about. And it's all simply because you don't have a structured routine for your money. It's a staggering figure, right? But it's the harsh reality for most of us. The second payday hits, the money just evaporates.
So, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're breaking down the exact 5-step financial system that transformed a regular, everyday earner into the very first millionaire in their family. And honestly, the absolute best part about what we're covering today, you literally won't have to work a single hour harder than you already do. We're just going to reroute the money you're already making to build an unstoppable wealth-generating machine.
Let's check out our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at 1. The paycheck problem. 2. Wants versus needs. 3. Building your safety net. 4. Crushing high-interest debt. 5. Autopilot wealth creation. And finally, 6. High-risk, high-reward plays. All right, let's jump right in.
Section 1. The paycheck problem. The leaky bucket. We've got to start with the reality most people face. You work hard for your paycheck, but the moment it hits your account, it's like a leaky bucket. The money just starts dripping away into this endless void of little pleasures. We're talking about a $5 morning coffee, maybe a $15 food truck lunch, a $4 transport ticket, a $2 sweet treat, and oh, that $1.40 a day on unwanted subscriptions. It doesn't feel like much in the moment, right? But these seemingly insignificant drains stack up to roughly $27 a day. Over a year, boom, there's your 10 grand. Day by day, dollar by dollar, it is secretly robbing you of your long-term freedom. Moving on to Section 2. Wants versus needs, the 2 columns exercise. So how do we actually plug these holes? Well, it gets a little confronting here. You need to grab 6 months of your recent bank statements and strictly divide every single recurring expense into just 2 columns, needs and wants. By doing this, you're calculating what we call your financial baseline. This is the absolute bare-bones minimum you need to just get by each month. We're talking rent, basic groceries, insurance, and utilities. You've got to be ruthlessly honest with yourself on this one. The golden rule? If you can physically survive without it, it's a want. Period. Not a need.
The real goal here is to compress that baseline so your strict needs take up no more than 25% of your total paycheck. Now, I know in today's economy that sounds practically impossible, but treat it as a target to work towards. Maybe it means finding a roommate or picking up a side gig to bump up your income. The ideal split we're aiming for is 25% needs, 25% for wants, fun stuff like restaurants, leaving a massive 50% totally dedicated to building wealth.
Which brings us to Section 3, building your safety net, the high-interest shield. Now that we know where our money is going, the absolute first priority for that remaining 50% is sending 20% right into a separate, high-interest savings account. Because here's a stat that's frankly terrifying. As of May 2023, 1 in 5 Americans literally have 0 emergency savings. Nothing at all. If you don't build this shield, what happens when the car breaks down or someone gets sick? You're instantly swiping a credit card or taking out a predatory loan, which just shoves you miles behind your goals. To build this shield, just follow these exact steps. First, auto-route that 20% to a completely different bank. Out of sight, out of mind. Second, make sure the account lets you withdraw instantly without penalties. No lock terms here. And third, keep at it until you've saved up 3 to 6 months of that bare minimum financial baseline. Once you hit that, you've got a pot of gold ready for actual emergencies. And no, a last-minute flight to Vegas does not count as an emergency. Section 4. Crushing high-interest debt, the guaranteed return on investment. Once that safety net is fully funded, the next 30% of your paycheck goes straight into hunting down high-interest debt, like credit cards. This is literally the only place in the entire financial world where you are guaranteed a massive return on your investment. There is an analogy from the source material that absolutely hits the nail on the head. Trying to invest while carrying high-interest credit card debt is like asking a doctor for a healthy meal plan while knowing you have a literal parasite in your gut stealing all the nutrients. There is 0 point chasing an 8% stock market return when a 20% interest rate is eating you alive every single day. You have to kill the parasite first. Let's look at a practical example using a $500 monthly payment across a few mixed steps. You've generally got 2 paths, the avalanche method or the snowball method. Avalanche aggressively targets the highest interest rate first, regardless of the balance. The snowball method goes after the smallest balance first to give you a quick, feel-good psychological win. But when we strip away the emotion, The math is crystal clear. The avalanche method saves you over $1,000 in interest and gets you completely debt-free 2 whole months faster. Sure, the snowball method gives you a dopamine hit early on, but it objectively costs you significantly more time and money. Put the feelings aside on this one. Follow the math.
All right, Section 5, Autopilot Wealth Creation, Tax-Advantaged Investing. The shield is up, the parasite is dead. Now we go on the offense. You take 35 to 40% of your excess cash and funnel it into a tax-advantaged account, like a Roth IRA in the US or a stocks and shares ISA in the UK. These are legal shields that keep the government's hands off your capital gains.
The play here is a broad, low-cost index fund, like the S&P 500. Now, I know it feels like watching paint dry at first, but check out the power of compound interest. By investing just $250 a month, assuming an historical average return of 8 to 10%, you hit year 10 and the growth starts to hockey stick. Fast forward 45 years, and that tiny monthly habit transforms into $1.3 million, completely tax-free.
The ultimate secret sauce here? Taking yourself out of the equation entirely. You have to automate it. The source material shares an awesome anecdote about the host's son, who set up an automatic £5-a-day investment, literally just the cost of a daily coffee. Because it was totally hands-off, he completely forgot about it. A year later, he opens the app to find a nearly 14% return on his money. Make it automatic, and you'll literally wake up richer.
Finally, Section 6. High-risk, high-reward plays, the fast lane. Look, waiting 45 years is a fantastic, proven, slow-lane strategy. But if you're itching to speed things up, that final 5 to 10% of your paycheck goes straight into the fast lane. Here's how you deploy that last slice. Put 5 to 10% toward a side hustle or starting a business. Because you're working with such a tiny budget, it literally forces extreme creativity. You can't just throw cash at problems, which often leads to discovering market gaps that the well-funded guys miss completely. Then, consider allocating a final 5% to major cryptos like Bitcoin or Ethereum. It gives you exposure to massive upside, and this is a huge but, you have to accept the mathematical reality that this can go to absolute zero. Treat it as a speculative play, guys, not your retirement fund.
So let's wrap this explainer up with one big question. Is your paycheck currently controlling your life, or are you ready to take control of every single dollar? You've got the exact blueprint now. The very next time you get paid, I challenge you to implement this routine. Calculate your baseline, build that shield, kill the debt parasite, and put your wealth on autopilot. Watch how fast you can turn a vanishing paycheck into a lifelong wealth-building machine. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.